Hi everyone, for those who haven't met me, my name is Phil Woodbridge and I'm studying for a PhD in sports nutrition looking at female football players. This first session is the first of 6 that you'll get over the season, aimed at improving your sports nutrition knowledge and in that way helping you to perform better, to recover better and to fuel better for your training and playing. So the idea of these sessions, and there'll be 6, one a month throughout the season, are to help you to learn more about nutrition, how to fuel for games and training, how to eat better for health and performance, to recover better. We'll look at hydration and the benefits of getting that right, the way that can help with your football, and then finally we'll look at some supplements. And at the end of it, the idea is that your sports nutrition will have improved. Hopefully that'll improve your intakes as well, and then we'll look at your sports nutrition knowledge and a couple of other questionnaires and your food intake to see if that's improved and whether there's been any impact on your health and rates of injury. So that's the whole idea, is to improve your diet, improve your nutrition and performance, and therefore have a knock-on effect to your health and injury prevention. So this is the first of those talks, and this first one's to do with fueling for football. So like I said, this session is about food for energy. So the food we eat, the food you eat through the day, gives you the energy for your day-to-day activities, but importantly for your football. So during a game of football, you use energy, and food is what's giving you that energy to play. So it's important to get that balance right. So the calories you eat, we measure, and then we also measure calories out as the energy you use. So you're using calories as energy, and then you're eating calories to fuel that energy. So food gives us those calories. So if you're using more energy to play football, you therefore need more energy through the food you eat to enable you to, one, perform better over a full game, over a full 90 minutes, but also to make sure you've got enough energy to keep yourself healthy. Because if you haven't when you play football, then something else will give, and therefore there'll be some sort of what we would call a physiological consequence to you not having enough energy. So food gives us that energy. And then we play football, like I say, we need more energy, and we can calculate that and quantify that, and then give you an estimate of how many more calories you would need, particularly on days when you're training and playing, to fuel that energy. So one of the comparisons that I always make is between a fuel tank in a car. If you want to drive for 3 or 4 hours, you need to have enough fuel in that car, otherwise you need to top it up. If you haven't got enough at the start, you won't be able to go as long. And that's the same when you think about your calories, your food that you need for football. If you haven't got enough when you start, you're not going to get to the end of the game with a full fuel tank unless you top it up, or unless you start with a full fuel tank at the beginning. So therefore, because we need more energy, we do need more food. And the study I did with a number of the players that were involved last year in my first study, we looked at how much energy they were taking in through their food and how much energy they were using day to day to sort of fuel their living. We need food to fuel the brain, our lungs and our heart, but we also need food to fuel our day-to-day activities, and then over and above that we need more food to fuel our exercise activity. And what that study showed, that there was an energy deficit of about 400 or 500 calories a day worked out over a week. So generally the players weren't fueling enough for that extra energy they were expending during training and playing football. So how much energy do we need to play football? How much energy are you using in a game? So typically, now this is an average, so obviously some players will use more than others. It depends how active you are, how much high speed running you're doing, how much sort of general lower intensity exercise, but calculations have been made of about 1100 calories. When you think about how many calories an average female needs during a day, which is around 2000 calories, that's a significant increase in the amount of calories for playing a match. So that has to be, we have to be thinking about that when we're thinking about the food we eat, particularly on match days and training days where we will be expending more calories. Therefore, we've got to be making allowance for that to give us enough energy to last a full training session, but also to benefit from those training sessions. So you're training hard, you want your muscles, and physiologically you want to adapt yourself so that you improve your physical fitness. Then you need those energy and you need those calories to enable you to do that. So an extra 1100 calories for a game of football obviously depends, like I said, on the individual player, the position, the type of match you're playing. You know, whether it's a full-on press, you might expend more energy in certain games because of the tactics than you would in other games, or depending on how close the game is. But generally, you know, that'll vary by player and position, but it will also vary. The energy you need in total will vary depending on your job you have as well. So if you're very active during the day rather than sitting at a desk all day, obviously that will mean you would need more calories and more energy. So estimated total daily energy expenditure from my first study was 2,200. So if you think about that, so that's 200 calories extra over and above the average female for 7 days a week. So 1,400 calories per week extra. But obviously the 1,100 calories in one game would suggest that, well, that doesn't sound enough. But generally, the players in this study would be a little bit lighter than the average female. So that with the average female, their average calorie requirements would be 2,000. A football player might be less than that because of the lower body weight. So overall 2,200, but that might be, say, more like 500 calories per day extra over and above if you weren't exercising and playing football, just as an average. But I suppose the thing I want to get over to you is you need more energy, you need more food, and that was pretty much across the board from the first study. There were very few players that were getting enough energy based on the calculations we did. So think about it, think about extra food, think about fueling, particularly when you've got training sessions and matches. So energy deficit means not enough fuel in the tank. So you're starting the game, you're starting your training session not with optimal sort of reserves of energy within particularly your muscles, and you also get energy from liver stores as well. So you need to make sure those stores are optimal so that you can achieve what you're trying to achieve during a game and during training. So what's the consequences, the lack of energy? So we've got a couple of different consequences. We've got the implications for performance and then the implications for health. So performance, potentially lower endurance, so you start to run out of energy, you start particularly later in the game, you haven't got that ability to keep running for longer. Decreased muscular strength, like I said, the adaptations to training are not optimized, so you're not getting those additional benefits of strength training because of the lack of energy, decreased concentration. So we use the energy to fuel lots of different functions within the body, but the brain is one of them. One of the sort of organs that use the most energy is the brain, and running out of energy can have an impact on concentration, and therefore skills can break down and mistakes can get made, particularly late in the game. The one thing I'm particularly interested in my study is increased injury risks. That having that lack of energy, having that breakdown in skills, mistiming a tackle, landing awkwardly because of lack of endurance, then the impact on injury risk is one of the things I'm looking at in this study. But the science suggests that there is an increased injury risk, and like I said before, that impact on the brain impaired judgment, and so mistakes get made. And there is some studies that show that a lot more goals are scored late in the game across football because of the sort of accumulation of all those impacts on performance. And decreased coordination, again, impacts on performance, impacts on the likelihood of potentially injuring yourself because of lack of energy. So that's the other consequence of lack of energy, is the implications for health. So if we haven't got enough energy to fuel our day-to-day activities, it has an impact on growth and development, and that can be natural growth and development as you're getting older, but it can also mean and implications for the growth and development through training. The strength training, the increase in muscular strength can be compromised if you haven't got enough total energy, enough calories in the diet. And one of the implications is the body then starts to, if it hasn't got enough energy to fuel everything it needs to do, it starts to compromise other functions. So one of the warning signs for low energy availability is a disruption of menstrual function, and that's one of the questionnaires we'll do at the end of the study to see whether the menstrual disruption that was shown in the first study, whether there's any improvement by getting the diet right. In theory there should be. You get the energy intake right, then your menstrual function is more likely to be normal, because you're balancing out the energy intake with the energy expenditure. It has implications for bone health, both through total energy, but also if you don't intake enough energy, then potentially you're not got big enough intakes of calcium, vitamin D, all the vitamins that can help optimize bone health. And that then has an implication for injury risk, particularly things like shin splints and bone breakages. You're more likely to suffer from those if you have a lack of energy and it's compromised bone health. Your immune health can be compromised with not getting enough energy, so more likely to pick up colds and bugs and flu, just generally not being in as good a health, and therefore it has an impact. Gastrointestinal, so that's one of the other warning signs, is disruption of gut health. So again, not enough energy, then one of the warning signs along with menstrual health is having GI, gastrointestinal problems. And then psychological. So like I said, when we're talking about the brain, not having enough fuel for the brain, then it can have an impact on psychological health and generally the whole feeling of well-being. If you're not getting enough energy, you're starting to feel run down, then that has an impact on on all of these measures of health. So we need to get it right for performance, and we need to get it right to optimize your health. And obviously that means you're then fit to play and you feel healthy and ready to play when you go out on the pitch on a Saturday. So that's the implication. So what do we need to do? So we need to fuel for the work required. So hopefully through this presentation you've got that message, that you need to get enough fuel in to fuel for the energy that you're expending during your training and playing. So training days, higher intensity, you therefore need more energy. match days, you need to think about a schedule, think about planning, think about when you eat and what you eat. So it's through these series of presentations, hopefully it will start to give you the tools you need, because I'll be doing one of these once a month, but in between times you'll be getting some hints and tips related to those presentations, but also some recipes. So some practical ways to say, right, this is the sort of things you can think about on match day, this is the timing, and this is the type of things you should be eating, and getting you into habits that mean you can get much more out of your training and playing by getting the nutrition right. So we've talked about increased energy needs, so we need to be eating more during those days when we're expending more. So therefore we need to increase our food intake, and particularly getting that total energy right, but then getting the timing right as well. And we'll talk about that during the various presentations. So we'll talk about carbohydrate, we'll talk about protein, but we'll also talk about when is the optimum time and the optimum amounts to be eating to make sure that you're fueling your exercise properly. What does that mean then? Eating for performance and health. What do we need to do? So we need to think about food first. So food first approach is basically saying that rather than thinking about supplements and adding things to the diet, non-food type things, particularly like I say supplements and protein and that sort of thing, that we add in, we use the food, we get the diet right, and then we may need to supplement depending on the total calories, but generally we should be able, if we get the calories right and we get the balance of nutrients right, then we should be able to sort of give everything you need to fuel your performance as a footballer. So there, I'll show you in a minute. So we will look at the Eat Well guide, so telling us what we should eat, the balance of our diet should look like, and then within that, what can give us the healthiest diet that the science suggests is optimal, like I say, for health and for performance. So the Eat Well guide, this is the sort of Eat Well guide for all the population. So everybody should be thinking about this in terms of the proportions of what you eat. It used to be called the Eat Well plate, but they've changed it now to be a guide. But if you look at this, we all know about the 5 portions of day, fruit and vegetables. So that's a third of your diet. So fruit and veg, a third of your diet. And then potatoes, bread, pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates, and choosing whole grain or high fibre versions. That's another about a third of your plate. So a third of your plate fruit and vegetables, a third of your plate starchy carbohydrates. You can see that what we're talking about is nearly 2/3 of your plate being carbohydrate. Now that's for the general population, and for you as a footballer, carbohydrate, and we will have a session, the next session is on carbohydrate, but it's about fueling you for higher intensity. That's when we use carbohydrate, and that's 2/3 of your plate even when you're not a footballer. So you need to make sure that you're having a bigger plate, so more than the 2,000 calories, probably 2.2 to 2.5, and then the proportion of fruit and vegetables and whole grains, bread, pasta, etc., is the majority of your diet. You need protein, so we've got beans, pulses, figs, eggs, meat, and other proteins, but they're more 15 to 20% of your diet. And then dairy and fats, so obviously within dairy you're getting some carbohydrate and protein as well, but within those, the sort of fat element of your diet shouldn't be any more than, again, we tend to work 20 to 30%. So you can see how suddenly we're saying 20, 20, 60, 20% protein, 20% fats, 60% carbohydrates. That's the balance of a diet you should be thinking of as a footballer. So when I send you your recipes and when I send you hints and tips, this is the structure I'll be looking at. Now, this part to the left here is the sort of treats and extras. So eat less often in small amounts. Well, yes, that goes for you as footballers as well as the general population. But if you need some extra calories, you need those 200 to 500 extra calories a day, and your plate of food is looking like the Eat Well plate, then to get those extra calories in, maybe on a match day, maybe on a training day, that's not the end of the world for you as footballers if you get those extra couple hundred calories from these treats, because you need those calories. If somebody who isn't training has those calories, they will just go on as added weight. So that's why generally they're taken out and saying this should really be treats, but not as big an issue. You wouldn't want to be eating them every day, but to help you to achieve your calorie targets, to help you achieve your energy needs, these high calorie density foods can be useful at certain times. Hydration is important, 6 to 8 cups a day. We'll talk about that in a separate session, and sort of learning to look at food labels, thinking about what it is you need calorie wise, but also what the breakdown of those calories should be. And like I said, we're going to have some specific sessions on carbohydrate, protein, and hydration. So we'll go on to that. But the general principle today is get the energy right, get the balance of calories right, and the diet for the general population, it still applies to you as a footballer. It's just you need that bit more, and you need to make sure that those proportions of carbohydrate are in that sort of 60% of your calories, and looking at your plate thinking, yeah, that's got to be a bigger proportion of my food than maybe other people in my family that are not as active as I am. So what's the Eat the Rainbow all about? So we talk about eating lots of different coloured fruits and vegetables, varying the colour of the diet. So trying to eat as many of those colours through the week, through the different foods we eat, because I can't teach you in this 6 monthly presentations everything I've learned in 10 years plus of studying sports nutrition. So I can't go into all the different macronutrients, all the different minerals, vitamins, and where we need. It's too much, too complicated. I want to get over some simple messages of how for you to eat healthily and to fuel your exercise. And this is one of the simple ways of saying, if you eat a variety of coloured fruit and vegetables, then you're getting the right amount of energy, you're going to be ticking the boxes for lots of those vitamins and minerals without having to sweat the small stuff and think about, am I getting enough vitamin C? Am I getting enough calcium? Am I getting enough vitamin D? And all the B vitamins. If you're eating healthily and you're eating a variety of fruit and vegetables with different colours, then you're likely to be ticking those boxes. So key messages: eat the rainbow, eat to the Eat Well guide with 2/3 of your fruit, your plate carbohydrate, and 5 fruit and veg a day. So packing fruit and veg in your bag, having fruit and veg available all the time, so having a bowl of fruit at home, dried fruit in your bag, fresh fruit in your bag, they're really good go-to snacks to be keeping healthy, but also giving you the fuel you need for your exercise. So just a last slide here really, and I'll send you copies of the slides as well. This was a look at one of the examples from last year of one of the players who was getting their calorie intake about right. So 2,200 calories, majority carbohydrate, nearly 60% carbohydrate. We look at this figure of 5 grams per kilogram and 1.6 gram per kilogram for protein. She was right on those. And you can see, it's a pretty well balanced diet, nothing earth shattering. So crumpets, jam and peanut butter there for breakfast, pasta with a sauce for lunch, rice, paella with chicken and prawns for dinner. But then the snacks were making up a big chunk. So bread and chocolate, milk, there was some protein powder in there, but these gum fruit, gums, jellies, like I said, to give you some, just to top up those calories. Not a problem with eating sweets when you need 2,200 calories to get some extra calories in through jellies, which are predominantly carbohydrate, is fine. But then some fruit, some bananas, some grapes, even a chocolate bar, not a problem, because the 2,200 calories is broken down well, and as give you a good balanced meals, good balanced diet, giving the calories you need and giving you the right type of calories. So that's the sort of, and I'll give you some meal plans as well over the next few months, just to get you thinking about how to balance the calories, how to get those extra calories, and particularly these snacks, making sure you're packing things in your lunchbox, in your bag ready, so you could eat something maybe 2 hours before training if you're going straight from work. What can I have? What can I have that's available that I eat over and above breakfast, lunch, and dinner? So that's again a key message. Just one thing, just an example. Alicia Russo, I wanted to be skinny and compete at the kind of level. My body is still a huge priority, but she understands now she needs to eat more than she thought she did, and now she doesn't want to be skinny. She wants to be strong. So it is about performance. It's about getting enough calories, getting the right balance of calories to fuel your exercise, to fuel your training, so you optimize those adaptations to training and make yourself perform better and feel healthier and better through that. Next session will be on carbohydrates, so I will see you again then.